begin. Last time we had the Van de Graaff generator here again, and we talked about lighting up a lamp. Remember I had this lamp, and I held it like this, and the lamp lit, and I held it like this, and it didn't light? Surrounding that dome is an alteration of space, and that space is said to contain an electric field, a force field. And you can tell, because when you walk by this, you can feel your hair stand up a little bit on end. Space is different with all that charge there. And it turns out the force field is stronger in here and weaker as you go further and further away. In fact, it behaves as an inverse square law when you have all your charge localized at one place like this. It keeps petering out with the inverse square of distance, just like gravity does. And when I held the lamp like this, it lit. You know why? That's because this part here was in a stronger part of the force field than here. We say that there's more energy on the charges here than here, which introduces a concept I want to see if you can get into. The idea of energy per charge. And we call that voltage. Let me define that. Energy per charge. That'd be energy in joules compared to charge in, do you know what the unit of charge is? Coulomb. So 1 joule per 1 coulomb is said to be an electrical pressure of 1 volt. So that's what voltage is, energy per charge. We saw the dome was charged up to thousands of volts. We saw Tricia touch that thing, thousands of volts. Why wasn't Tricia zapped? Well, she zapped a little bit, but why is she still here today? Enormous amount of energy per charge, okay? But not very many charges. If Tricia went home tonight and took a bobby pin and stuck it into 110 volts at home, honey, Tricia wouldn't be here next time maybe, yeah? Okay? She'd be hurt. You know why? That's not so much energy per charge, but how many charges are going to flow when you stick into the power company sockets? A lot or a little? Begins with a L. A lot. So there might be a little energy per charge, but so many, the total energy going through you is very uncomfortable. But the energy that came from the Van de Graaff generator, a lot of energy per charge, but if not many charges, then not much total energy. It's very similar to high temperature and low temperature. Remember we talked about the 4th of July sparkler that's got temperature more than 1,000 degrees? But you don't get burned by the spark, because why? Although the energy per molecule is very high, you don't have very many molecules in the spark. So the total energy is below the threshold of healing. So very similar. This idea of something per something else gives sometimes counterintuitive type things. That you could touch a Van de Graaff generator of enormous voltage without harm. That you can have a spark touch you of enormous temperature without harm. It's because it's the energy per something else. Do you kind of see that? Now, what happened over here, why the current flowed, had to do with the idea more electrical pressure on one side than the other. And so the flow of current is proportional to voltage difference. Not how much voltage, but how much voltage in one place compared to the other. Think of voltage as a pressure. Huh? So it's proportional to voltage difference. Proportional to. So the more voltage difference, the more... Hey, imagine I have a pipe right here filled with water. Okay? See that water-filled pipe? I have a piston over here, and I have a piston here. And I push with a certain pressure, maybe 5 units. I push with the same pressure here, 5 units. Which way does the water flow? How many say the water ain't going to flow at all? I say, yeah, but I got under pressure. And you say, yeah, but there's no pressure difference. How about I push here with 5? And I push over here with 3. What does the water do, gang? What does the water do? The water flows, okay? And similarly, if you take a piece of wire and you put a pressure difference across the wire, and I can do that here. Here's a lamp, okay? This is a 12-volt battery. One end is 12 volts higher than the other. If I touch here and touch here, no light. If I touch here and touch here, no light. There's 12 volts, 12 volts. Why no light? Check your neighbor, why no light? Let's try the other side. No light, still no light. Why? How come?
No difference.
But I got 0 volts over here. Oh, over here I got 12 volts. There's no difference. You gotta have a difference. Look what happened. I go like this. A. Ought to be, huh? What's the voltage difference across the lamp now? 12. 12. So if you got a voltage difference, you get a current. It kind of makes sense. This is not counterintuitive. The more voltage difference you have, the more current you're going to have through a conductor. And this is a conductor. It's a piece of wire made out of copper with electrons can flow all through there, gang. So I have a conducting path with a voltage difference. No voltage difference, no current at all. Voltage difference for a current. Make sense? You know, when I was a little kid, I learned about some of this stuff, at least from a neighbor. Across the street was a guy that used to fix his car all the time. He was sort of a little older than us, and he kind of taught us kids a lot of things. And he'd be fixing the car and be under there doing electrical work and everything. And I noticed that what he'd do is he'd put his hand behind his back when he's kind of fooling around. There's a coil in there, high voltage, more than 1,000 volts, a coil, induction coil, okay? And what he'd do, he's fooling around with that. He makes sure one hand behind here. Hey, Jack, how come you put your hand behind there, man? He said, I put my hand behind here because I don't want to touch a high voltage and have my other hand over here on the car. Because then the voltage will be between this hand and guess what's in between? Begin with H. End with art. Try it. Your heart. And how many say, oh, I like to have current flowing through my heart? Who? Come on, no way. You don't want the current to go through your heart. That's the worst thing. And so as long as he touches like this, then the current might go from here right down the foot. Oh, he'd be hurt, but it don't go through here. See? You don't want it going across your heart. Another thing he always did too, he told us about this. When you touch a wire, a lot of times people touch a wire and they get, they can't let go. You know why they can't let go? People, oh, they attracted to the electric. No, he ain't attracted. Contraction. Remember the biology experiment you used to do with the frog's legs? The frog leg like that, and you come over and you touch it like that. The frog is dead, honey. And it's still going like that. It turns out that electrical. Can you guys do that? Try it. I hope you can. Do you know what you guys are doing? You are sending electrical impulses down your hand. It's electrical impulses that do that. And it contracts. So what happened when you touch the wire? It's not that you attract, it's that your fingers contract. So he told us that electrician types, always if they're fooling around, they touch like this. If you touch like contract, you pull it away, see? You're okay. But you don't want to go like that. See what I'm saying? Practical stuff. Practical stuff. Anyway, you want to avoid voltage differences. Hey, why is it that you see birds on high tension wires, bare wires, and you see the bird come down and he grab on a foot and stand on one foot and he's on the wire. And the bird doesn't get fried. The bird's okay. Now what happened? The bird reached down and put the other foot on the same wire. What happened to the bird then? Begin with N and with nothing. Try it. Nothing. He's a bird's okay. Look, hey man, the bird's 100,000 volts. Is the bird all right? The bird is all right. Because you get 100. What's the voltage difference across the bird? Zilch. Zilch. Let me tell you what I used to do when I was a kid. I grew up in the suburbs of Boston. And we used to go in and visit Boston, and sometimes we'd go to the MTA, Metropolitan Transit Authority. It's the underground train, electrified. The train rides in two rails, and there's a third rail. And guess what the third rail's for, gang? It's 5,000 volts. That's the source of energy. And that third rail's a little higher, and what the train does has a little brush all the time scraping. And so it gets 5,000 volts between that brush and the rail, see? 5,000 volts runs your motor, and these things are motor-driven, electrified rails. Well, we kids, we used to do something that, looking back, I'm not so proud of it, but let me tell you what we used to do. We used to get on a rail there, we'd get up there, okay, we'd be in a platform, and the trains are coming by here. And what we would do, and we found out that we could get the people on the platforms very excited. We'd jump down in a pit. And we'd jump down, you're not supposed to do that. Because they got a white line here. But we'd do it anyway. And we found when we did it, the adults up there would freak out. Now you would think that if they're freaking out and concerned, we would say, wait a minute, we're upsetting the adults. Let's get back up. But we didn't. The more they got upset, some people think that little kids are innocent. And as you get older and older, you get more and more corrupted. There's a case to be made, it's the other way around, okay? That as you get older and older, hopefully you get developed and start to think about other people. But when you're a little kid, you don't kind of do that. But anyway, we used to do that, and we used to play a game to see when the train would come, we'd jump up and let the train go right by, see? And we were good at it. Besides, you could smell the ozone as the train's coming up. And we always thought that we could smell better than the other people. We could hear better. Well, it turns out we could. And we would play a game, see who's the last one to whoop, jump up and let that train come by. Well, the game cascaded. It went further than that. Because we'd be walking on the rail like that, putting our arms out. Now I know why I put the arms out. You guys know why we put the arms out? Increases your rotational inertia, yeah? Okay. We'd be on the rail like that, okay? And then jump to the other rail, boom, like that. And a lady at the top, she said, "Oh, children!" Now, she was identifying with us. We weren't identifying with her. Now, who's more developed? "Children, children, watch out for that third rail." "What are you talking about, lady? This one over here?" "Yes, yes, watch out for that third rail, children." "This one, lady?" Whoomp. What's the voltage? And it turns 5,000 volts on this foot. What's the voltage on this foot? 5,000 volts. What's the voltage difference across my body? Zip. What's the current flowing through my body? Zip. Who's okay? I'm all right. She's freaking. She don't know anything. All right? One day Harry's on that third rail. He's going across the third rail. Oh, Harry, man, he was a old Harry. And she said, "Lady, don't touch both rails at one time." He says, "What, like this, lady?" At the funeral. No, Harry really didn't do that. But if he did do that, what happened? 5,000, 0, boom, bam, honey. Bad scene. Yeah. You don't want to get a voltage difference. But with no voltage difference, you can do wonders. Yeah. No voltage difference. You could fall out of a helicopter and come, boom, hit a high tension wire, and you could hold on it. Maybe it's 120,000 volts. Boom, 120,000. What's over here? 120. Yeah. Oh, man, miracle of miracles, I made it. Well, now I got to get down. Oh, I think I'll just go over here and grab the tower. Oh, no, don't grab the tower. What can I have you grab the tower? Oh, no good. Yeah, then you have a voltage difference. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hey, something happened in California some time ago. Well, this is over 10 years now. You guys be knowing what a cherry picker is? It's a truck that's got a boom that goes way up and can service the wires. Well, it turns out up near Lake Tahoe they had a storm, and some of the wires went out. They sent the cherry picker up, and the cherry picker went up there and was repairing the wires and everything, and all of a sudden it slipped in the mud and shorted right against the wires. And the whole thing is more than 100,000 volts. The whole thing. And there's a guy up there. And the guy is sitting in there. Guess what his potential is? What his voltage is? Something like maybe 120,000. He's the same high voltage, but he's okay because every part of his body. All right? Now, it turns out that you're not supposed to drink on the job. That he had been drinking beer. You people be knowing what happens after you drink some beer? What you got to do? He had to go to the bathroom, but there's no bathroom up there. Now he's not going to go right in his own feet, right? So where did he go to the bathroom, so to speak? Where did he relieve himself, gang?
Under the ground.
Over the edge. Right over the edge. Guess what his last act was? And do you see why? Do you see? This is a true story. This is a true story. That guy might as well have tied a piece of copper wire onto himself and throw the other end right down into the ground, because he afforded a conducting path from him. Boom. He never knew what hit him. He made contact with the ground. So he's got 100,000 volts. That's it. That's it. So when you're up there, high and away there, honey, just hold on, okay? Save it. This course may save your life someday, yeah?
What happened if he had done it one drop at a time?
He would be okay, Campbell, had he done one drop at a time. But he or little spurts, right? And you can calculate, you know. But the poor dude never knew. He never knew that. Can you imagine him now as an angel? Oh, son of a bitch, man! I should. It was too late. Too late. Yeah. Another thing too. When I was in Boston, the very first job I ever had when I got out of high school was I was an errand boy. And as an errand boy one time, I remember it was in Everett, Mass, and there the MTA goes up on the top. They call it the elevated. You've seen it in the movies, you guys, right? And, you know, all the trains going by and all, man. And it turns out that all these fire engines and everything were all around, and I was wondering, what's all the excitement? And it turns out that, lo and behold, there's a guy in the top, an indigent, better name than for bum. In the middle of the winter is a guy sitting on the third rail, drinking his wine with his feet on the second rail. And everyone is freaking, and the guy is okay. do you be knowing why the guy is okay?
Rubber-soled shoes.
Let me give you a hint. It's winter time.
Oh, winter.
He's poor. He can't afford nice thermal underwear and nice down parkas. So what does he use, gang? Begin with P and with aper. Got a news in the front. Newspaper. This guy was all plastered with newspaper inside. Guess what is a very good heat conductor? Newspaper. No. Heat insulator.
Heat insulator.
That's it. You through you guys. Heat insulator. Newspaper, right? Why is newspaper a good heat insulator? Because it doesn't have those loose electrons. And guess what is also a good electrical insulator for the very same reason? Beginning with N and with paper. Try it. Newspaper. And this guy had a lot of newspaper, a nice insulator. And what he did is he effectively increased the electrical resistance between him and the tracks. And so this relationship, current proportional to voltage difference, becomes an exact equation when I include the idea of resistance. If you have a humongous resistance, even for a big voltage difference, the current will be very small. So how much current flows through things has to do with two ideas, gang. What's the voltage difference across the ends of the conductor? And what's the resistance that that conductor offers to a current flow to begin with? And that usually has to do with the geometry and the material of the conductor. Like a great big fat piece of copper has less resistance than a little skinny piece of copper. Just like a great big humongous pipe will have less resistance to the flow of water than a little skinny pipe, yeah? And how about a lamp like this? This copper right here, it's relatively thick, but it's very, very thin in there where the filament is. Guess where most of the resistance is across these two leads? Begins with FIL. Filament. In that filament is most of the resistance. And guess where most of the energy is dissipated going from here to here when I touch it across the battery? Right in the filament. In fact, the filament reacts so bad, it turns white hot with heat. Look at that. It's glowing. And there's your lamp. Isn't that nice? Now you can read books and things at nighttime without having to kill whales. You just use a battery. Ain't that nice? Okay. A little film. You don't need a flame. Just make that little piece of tungsten wire. Get so hot it'll glow. And that glowing, of course, there's your light. Kind of neat, yeah? So we measure current in amperes, amps, okay? And we measure voltage in volts. And we measure resistance in ohms. All together now. Ohms. Okay, there's an ohm, yeah. That's ohms. In fact, ohms are written like this. Greek letter omega, ohm. Voltage is written like this, V, and current is N. Amps, the unit is amps, and oftentimes we call current I. So we could say I equals V over R. And it's the old song and dance, gang, that if you know two of these things, you know the other. Like, for example, let's suppose I tell you the resistance of this little lamp is 1 ohm. And I put it across this 12-volt battery. There are people in this room besides Lee who can tell me how much current is flowing through the battery. And then there are people that can't. Check to see if you're sitting next to someone who can. 1 ohm resistance, 12 volts across the battery. What's the answer, gang? 12. And that's 12 amps. That's Ohm's law. Ohm's law. Ohm's law just gives us the relationship between current, voltage, and resistance. Kind of neat stuff. Now, when I touch this, like this, gang, I'm getting current that flows in one direction. Goes from here to here or here to here. I don't forget which is which. Okay? But it flows all in one direction. We have a name for current that has one direction of flow. Guess what we call it, gang? Direct current. DC. To say you have DC current is to say you have current that flows in one direction. That doesn't mean it has to be steady, steady, steady. It could be pulsed. It could go off, on, or something like that. But always one direction through the wire. And then you have the kind of current that lights the lamps in the room here and at home. And the kind of current you have in your home, and what is that? It alternates back, forth, back, forth. We call the kind of current that alternates back and forth, guess what? Alternating current, AC, okay? And here's how the AC current works. You see this washing machine right here? See the washing machine agitator? I'm going to put my clothes in here. Can you see that? Look at the motor underneath there, gang. Notice all it is, it's a region that contains water, and it's got a paddle like that. And notice that paddle is hooked up here, and I want to make this thing go chung, 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 chung. That's what I want to do, right? And notice down here, it's all watertight, and I got that paddle. Notice these two leads? See they're lucite? You can even see right through them, okay? Filled with water, yeah? See those two holes in the wall? Watch this. That's the power company. Chung! I put it right in there. Look in that hole, you know what you see? You see a couple of pumps like this. Chung, 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 chung. That's all I got. That's what the power company does. Chung, 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 chung. Okay? So you put this in, okay, you connect it. Boom! What's your water doing now? Chung, 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 the water. Chung, 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 chung. Can you see it? Over here. Chung, 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 chung. What's it doing over here to the paddle? Chung, 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 chung. What's happening? Your washing machine? Water power. Hey, water power. Helps you wash your clothes. We do the same thing without water. Guess what you use instead of water, gang? Begin with E. Electrons. The electrons in a piece of copper wire. You can make those things slosh back and forth too. And you plug it in the plug in your house, and what do? What the power company does, it'll just move them. And by the way, did you catch in the chapter? How many electrons come from the power plant to your house annually? About? A lot or a little? Answer don't begin with an L. What's the answer, gang? How many electrons come from the power company into your home in about 1 year? 1 year's time. Give me an answer.
Zero.
Yeah, 0. None. The power company doesn't send any electrons at all to you. That power company says, you give me something chock full of loose electrons, honey, and we'll make a move. See? That pipe that was filled with water, you got a supply to water. You look inside there, honey, it's dry. There's just 2 pistons, okay? And they're going to push the water you supply. And when every time you take a piece of wire and you plug it in to light up a lamp, honey, that wire is chock full of loose electrons. And those electrons are like that, right? You plug it in there, they all start moving like this. And then that's energy, honey. That's energy. And then energy go to whatever you want it to do. So all that wire is going to do is deliver energy from one place to another by just shaking the electrons. It turns out the electric field guides right through that wire. And all the electrons along that wire start responding to the field. First, and then this way. They must get mixed up, man. They don't know what to do. They just keep sloshing back and forth. Back, forth, 60 times per second. We call that 60 hertz. And that's what your AC current is. It's just electrons sloshing back and forth. Kind of neat, yeah? Let's take a look at this again. I'm going to hook this up like that. And lo and behold, it lights. What's the voltage across the lamp, gang? 12. What's the voltage across the lamp now? 12. What's the voltage across the lamp now? 12. In fact, you know what I could do? I could keep this battery in this room. And I could take these 2 leads and I could bring them to the other side of campus. And over on the other side of campus, I could go like this. And I'd say, what's the voltage across the leads, gang? And what would you guys say? 12. And it would light up over there. In fact, what do you think a wire is? A wire is just 2 leads that come from some power source somewhere else. But you got one of these things cut off. You hit a switch, boom, you connect it and you're on. See, it's like this. Turn the switch off, boom. Turn the switch on, boom. There's little clever ways to do that. But I've got 12 volts across that lamp no matter where I put it. Okay? Let's suppose I go like this, gang. Let's suppose I put another lamp in here. I'll put another lamp in series. Series, I'm using your word, gang, series. Huh?
Yep.
There's one right after the other. Ooh, I should have asked you before I did it. Will a lamp glow brighter or less bright? And you guys would have said anyway, less bright. And I say, what's the voltage across the 2 lamps? And you guys would have said,
12.
What's the voltage across 1 lamp? And you guys would say,
6.
yay, feels good, feels good. 6. 6 and 6 is what? 12, that's right too. If you take the 6 volts across this 1 ohm, what's the current in there?
6.
Oh, we got to go through that again. If I get 6 volts across there, and a resistance of 1 ohm, 6 amps. 6 amps here. How many amperes over here? 6. In fact, in this series, how many amps right through this little point right here?
6.
How many amperes through a point right here? 6. And how many amperes flew through the battery? 6. 6. 6. 6. 6. 6. All the way along. How many amperes up here? None. This is not part of the circuit. My circuit's right through there. See what I'm saying? The current flowing through the circuit. And the circuit now has twice as much resistance as before. If it got twice as much resistance, what's the current? Half as much. Do you see? Ohm's law kind of says it all. Ain't that neat? All right, now here's what I'm going to do. And everyone's going to get this right. I'm going to hook another lamp in series, and I'm going to connect it up, and you're going to tell me brighter or dimmer.
Dimmer.
Is there anyone says brighter? No, nobody say brighter. And what do we got? It sure is dimmer. Let me ask you guys a question. What's the voltage across the whole system? 12. Okay. How much resistance we got now compared to before? 3. 3 times the resistance. How much is the current now compared to with a 1? 1/3. Ain't that neat? So now you got 1/3 of an amp. Huh? What's the voltage across one of these things? 1/3 of 12. 4. Okay. And 4. 1 ohm. 4. Do I have it right? Did I make a mistake? Did I make a mistake, gang? I never make mistakes. But we have 4 volts across here. Okay. 1 ohm, so we have 4 amps. What's going through here? 4. 4. Before it was 6, and first of all it was 12. So the current's getting less and less because the resistance getting more and more. This is a series circuit. I'm going to make a little change, gang. Look how come it's bright. How about I take a lamp now and I put it not in series but in parallel, like the rungs of a ladder, parallel, parallel. I'm going to hook this. What's going to happen to the brightness of that lamp when I connect this? How many say nothing? My people, that's right. Because let me ask you a question. What's the voltage across this lamp?
12.
What's the voltage across this lamp?
12.
What's the resistance of this?
1.
So what's the current through this?
12 amps.
12. 12. What's the voltage across this lamp? 12. What's the current through there? 12. 12 divided by 1, get it? 12. 12 amps, 12 amps, 12 amps. So the amps, volts, I get mixed up again. The voltage is the pressure supplied by the battery, 12. There's 12 right through across these, from these 2 prongs, yeah? And I pick up the 12, 12, 12. The battery going to wear down fast now, gang, because I got a lot of amps flowing. If there's 12 amps flowing through here, how many are flowing right through here?
12.
12. It's like automobiles driving from a garage down here. And some of those automobiles go through here and come back. Some go through here and back. Some go through here and back. If 12 go through there and you put a little checkpoint right here, how many are going through here? 12. Okay? How many through here? 12. How many through here?
12.
How many through here?
24.
Ah! What is it?
20.
It's 24. Because you get the 12 from here, and you get the 12 coming down this street. Ah. How many through here? 24. How many through here?
12.
You guys are on. 12. How many through here?
36.
36. How many through the battery?
36.
Who's getting tired? The battery. The battery. More energy going out, no, more power going out. You get it? Okay? Think about these ideas, gang. And here's a question I got for you. As you continue to put more and more resistors, does the battery see an overall resistance that is more or is less? And why? Think about that.
You're putting
Physics.